again. If it's LinkedIn Live or actually live streaming because this is on YouTube Live at the same time. Hour of Power. Our word of the day is gratitude. Chat is wide open. We depend on chat to really direct us, make us as relevant and worthwhile as possible, so you can come away with a few takeaways that you can actually use, get benefit from, network, get to meet people. Make this hour count because we value your time, thought, and effort. With that said, I'll turn it over to Tara, who's a brand new guest. She could share a little context on who she is and what her initial thoughts on gratitude. So, Tara, welcome to the show. So happy to have you.
Oh, well, I'm honored to be here and I'm so excited. I felt like connecting me with Bev was such a beautiful connection for the work that she does. So, for those of you, I put Tara's voice because most people know me from that standpoint. I'm the founder of Hey Girl You Can. And when you said gratitude, to be open, guys, I went back and I said, oh, you must have deliberately chosen that word since I was going to be here. And then I found out that it was a complete universal spiritual alignment fluke. For those of you who don't know, I started a gratitude practice back in, 2009. My daughter, who's my only daughter, was 3.5 at the time and was diagnosed with high risk stage 4 neuroblastoma, which is a stage 4 childhood cancer that has a pretty one of the lowest survival rates. And it was during that season, I was in the middle of a domestic violence divorce. My life was falling apart. Everything around me was falling apart. And I chose to start a gratitude practice as a way to change my mind. We know the concept of what we focus on gets bigger, right? And so all I could see was all these things falling apart around me. And I thought, well, I have to change this fast. What's the fastest way to do that? And so I began a gratitude practice. And that gratitude practice, that simple practice, literally changed my life. I think it changed my daughter's life. Out of that grew my book, my TED Talk, all those other things. But it all started with sitting down one night and just listing things I was grateful for. And so when you chose gratitude, I thought, oh my gosh, what an alignment. I truly believe, and if we look at what's going on in the world, particularly right now today, which is horrific, imagine if our whole world, like imagine if every single one of us just was forced to do a gratitude practice every night. And that's all that was forced. Everyone had to sit down and list things they were grateful for that day. I believe the entire world would be unrecognizable in a month. In a month, we'd have a completely changed world because we'd be changed, right? So I love this word. I hope that we just embrace this, and I'm excited to hear Beverly's thoughts on it.
Yeah, Beverly, take it away.
Well, I have lots of thoughts, and first of all, welcome, Tara. I've been here for a while, Dawn, and first I have to say I am ever so grateful to be here every Tuesday for a good 4 months, almost pushing 5.
Wow.
So yeah, and so what I'm grateful for, among so many things, is you, Dawn, this community, which is so empowering to so many other people. And what's wonderful about gratitude, and yes, of course I practice it, but I'm not a professional person that practices gratitude constantly. And and that's only because it's me. Okay. And what happens is in our worlds, we get mixed up with all kinds of things. We're always thinking and we're always moving ahead. But what's wonderful about gratitude, and every religion has it, and right now I'm Canadian and we just got off Canadian Thanksgiving. And what gratitude does is it sets you back. You start thinking about the wonderful things that go on in your world, the things that you have, the small stuff. And quite frankly, without practicing gratitude as a practice every day, I am so grateful every day for getting up, for doing the work that I do, for helping people. And I think when you're helping people, you always check back and say, wow, whatever my problems are, they're not so big. Everybody has
Mhm.
problems. So whether we're checking to be grateful for the little things like, oh, my car started today. I'm grateful. Or, oh, I have this wonderful food that just came in from the grocery. And guess what? They delivered it and they delivered it on time. And oh, I'm just grateful for that. Just check in with yourselves all the time because gratitude gives you empathy. And this is just what Tara was saying. Tara, you were saying if the whole world just looked around, well, yes, we would empathize with our brothers, with our sisters. And when you just look at that, gratitude makes you into more of a person. It enriches you. You empathize, you give more. And guess what? When you give more, surprise, 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 you actually get more.
Mhm.
People respond to other people. So I think whether you're practicing gratitude on a regular basis, you should always just be humble enough to just see not everybody has, just look around and just be grateful, even for the bad stuff. And believe me, there's a lot of bad stuff. But what you're doing is you say, where do I find the little good? That will give you resilience. That will allow you to move forward. And bringing gratitude in your life, whether it's a practice or whether you're just seeing it as the small things, it is a blessing. And I'm hearing right now, Scott, just comes an attitude of gratitude. Yes, yes, we all need that attitude. And Dawn, I know that you're grateful for everything, for your grandchildren, for your wife, for this platform. And you know what? You breathe that your friendship, your smile, and I think everybody sees that, and that's why this platform has been built into what it has.
Well,
Rick
thank you
and
so much,
it's
Beverly.
true.
I'm so grateful for you and Tara and everybody in the family because it is a
Yeah.
community. And you know what's so wonderful about it? It's organically formed in
Yes.
the most authentic way because, just to introduce, Kelly's here. Kelly's been here for 10,
Hi,
11 months.
hi,
Uh,
Kelly.
she is I'm so grateful for her vision and ability to see what could be and not only see it, but help make it happen. And the same thing, thank you, Kelly, with Leslie, who, I'm doing at least a show a week. And I can't forget Kelly. Her show, The Awesome Journey, is about 2 hours, no, is 2 hours from here. Also, can't forget to mention Harvey Tux. The franchise show follows here, so it's a triple header if you want. So if you got time and you want to listen to more of this, great. But Leslie has Think and Grow Rich on Friday, her show, and her audio event on Monday, Mind Over Matter. And everybody started here for the first time, which
That's
is so great. And now I got about 15 people in orbit who are really smarter and making everybody smarter. And that's, I think, what we're looking at is incremental benefit in a collaborative session where you've got not 3 people talking to 20, but 20 people talking among themselves and
right.
across and everywhere else. So, I'm just so grateful for that. Carrie's here, who is always a comic and was here for Gretchen yesterday. Dennis, our rhymer, is here. Agree, gratitude is a great way to change your attitude, to be more positive, and practice can make perfect. Thanks for reminding us. And Dennis has a heating and air conditioning business here in Denver, 48 years. You have to give him credit for his stick witness. Debbie's our butterfly person who champions the monarch butterfly in their migration to Mexico, and can't wait to have Debbie back. So she's moving back to Florida from Wisconsin, where she spends her summers. Dennis is gratitude does set you back to move forward and be grateful and not hateful. So true. Scott, haven't seen you in a while, unless it's the first time. So very welcome. Attitude of gratitude. Thank God each day for giving us another chance. For sure. Leslie says, okay, hello, hello. Omar's here. I was on his show a week ago, and he does Zumanity, and he did a new show. And I've been on Paul's shows and so many shows. But to chime in on gratitude, the way I adopt a perspective is it's a heavy reserve that you can add to your balance sheet any day, right? And if you have that going for you, I'm so blessed for this. And sincerely. So it's not like making stuff up and trying to believe it. When something, you know, comes that now makes the scales change, right? All of a sudden you get hit by some disappointment or something surprising that you didn't figure into your plan. Now the plan shifts. You know, it was an intruder almost. It came uninvited, and you can't get rid of it very quickly. So what do? You balance it with what is the next best thing you can be grateful for. And at a certain point, even if you get out of yourself and say you're grateful just for what you mean to other people, right? And they deserve for you to be successful at what you do or healthy at who you are. You know, so you're always in control or mastering at least the perception of it. You may not, but you know, the thing is you have time. You have all the time you give yourself. And too many people want it out right now, and they forget more about what they're about and what they should be grateful for. So with that, Tara, we've turned a lot of corners here. What
Yeah.
Well, with experience?
I know, and I have so many thoughts on it. Again, this is just a topic of mine that I so love. So one thing people don't really realize too with gratitude, and depending on where you are and what you know about as far as quantum physics and energy work and all of that, you know, we have different levels of energy that we vibrate at. And that's where the concept of like attracts like, right? You're going to attract in your same vibrational level. Well, the highest vibrational level is love, and the lowest vibrational level is shame. And so love is sometimes a real challenging one to get to. Just very quite openly, I mean, picture I'm sitting in a hospital room with my daughter dying of cancer and a domestic violence divorce. That's a hard place to get to love. All right. And so like when Don said, you know, something throws you for a loop, it can be challenging to get in a place of love. When you're in a place of grief, when you're in a place of pain, when you're in a place of trauma, as much as we might mentally want to, can we all agree that that's hard to say, okay, I'm feeling so loving right now when I'm feeling all of these other anger, hurt, hate, whatever. But one place that I think is a hack, an easier place to get to is gratitude. And gratitude actually vibrates right under love. So sometimes we don't realize the power of gratitude. It's literally one step under love. And I think all of us, particularly, hey, if we're in America or Canada, you know, we can find something to be grateful for. I mean, when you look at the rest of the world and children dying every day of malnutrition, or you look at the wars that are currently happening in other places, or you compare it like North Korea, do you know what I mean? Like, to be able to say, I can't find anything to be grateful for would just be ridiculous. We can all find something to be grateful for. And so what that does is when you're in a midst of feeling angry, sad, disappointed, frustrated, but you start to think, okay, what am I grateful for? You start to slowly raise your vibrations. You start to slowly raise that energetic vibration, and you bring yourself higher, which then starts to shift all of the energy around you. This is why it's this very magical, powerful place to be in. And one of the words we keep seeing, and I see this in the comments, is this practice, a gratitude practice. And I just want to elaborate on that because this is where I see a lot of people doing it wrong. I don't know if you could do it wrong, but if you were going to do it wrong, or let me say maybe not as effective, you're not getting the full benefit from it, is that for a lot of us, when we do a gratitude practice and we think, what are the things I'm grateful for? We tend to go back to the same 3 or 5 things, right? So I'm grateful that my daughter, she's 17 now, right? She's my miracle kid. I'm grateful for my daughter. I'm grateful for my health. I'm grateful for my job. I'm grateful for my spouse. I'm grateful. We list these kind of surface things. And so if you think of gratitude like a practice, like yoga, that would be like going to a yoga class every day, doing a downward dog, doing a tree pose, you know, doing a happy baby, and you did the same 3 moves over and over and over again. You would not grow in your yoga practice, right? you might be get really good at a downward dog, but you would never grow as a yogi. You would kind of only have your basic 5 moves. So what do you do when you do a yoga practice? You try different moves. You try to do a warrior 1 and then a warrior 2, and then you put a little inversion in it, and it feels uncomfortable and you fall over and somebody looks like they can do it better than you can, you know? But the whole purpose of yoga, right, is not to compare. It's a practice. It's not a destination. And it's the same thing with gratitude. It's every day saying, okay, I know I've got these 5 things going for me, but what are the small, insignificant things that I'm completely overlooking? Because the power of the practice is in the insignificant. Okay, so the insignificant is, wow, I'm really grateful. And here's how I tell everybody, here you can gauge your meter. You pull on the highway, you're in a rush, you got to get somewhere, and you come to a halt because there's a whole traffic jam and somebody just got into an accident. What is your instant reaction? Is your instant reaction, oh, right, and all these words start coming out of your mouth, and I can't believe this idiot, and who was driving like this, and I'm going to be late, and now your anxiety is going up, and you're really angry, and who is this fool who was driving, and I live in Jersey, like New Jersey, where this is like a comment, you know, and you want to start stringing out, or do you go, oh, I am so grateful I was running 5 minutes late. I wasn't in that accident. Somebody's life could have just been changed in that instance. I don't know what's going on up there. I don't know if somebody died, if somebody became paralyzed, but I don't know the people who were involved. I don't know the paramedics that now had to rush from what they were doing to take care of this. I don't know the families that are going to be getting phone calls that are impacted. Thank you, Lord, that I was 5 minutes late. Wherever I'm going, I will get to. I'm just so grateful that I wasn't in that accident, and let me send like healing and love to the people who are. Wherever you fall on that stage, that will tell you pretty quickly, where are you in your gratitude practice?
Okay. I mean, I think that's very, very interesting based on interpretation and
right. How you see it, right?
Exactly, and how you see what is around you. I read that book, I forget, Thomas Friedman, and he wrote a book, Thank You for Being Late. And he related it all to an experience where he was in New York and he wanted to meet somebody for breakfast in New York, and they set a time, and he got there a couple minutes early, and the other person didn't get there a couple minutes early and came about 10 minutes late. And what he figured out is the first minute he was like a little bit frustrated, like, I'm here, he's not, someone's not punctual.
Yeah.
And then he realized he had a lot of important things he needed to take care of, right? So he got his laptop out and he started doing what he needed to do. And by the time the gentleman showed up, he had gotten something done. And that's where he came up with, thank you for being late, because it allowed me to finish something that was important. So when something that failed you becomes something that takes over your awareness and your focus, when it should say pivot, right? That's not ready in the oven, so take care of what is and then get back to it or keep going. I mean, if you've got things stacked up that you say, if I have time, I got things to do with it, then no one's really taking that time except for you, because the time they're not there is the time you're still with yourself. But people let arbitrary deadlines, timelines, and then they transpose it onto the person. You're late, so now you're this, and this too. And now it'll never be right. I'll always remember you were late. But, then Thomas said the same thing to himself. Well, maybe they got caught in traffic. It's New York, right? Maybe there's an issue, right? So before you start blaming somebody, I mean, the facts are the facts, but it's always what happened, right? And what's that person feel like and sound like when they show up? Is it like they feel bad that they're late, or is it like blowing you off? But either case, you're still in control of what you see and how you see it, whatever it is. And the last thing towards gratitude is I'm already grateful for everything I've done. That's in the book. No one can change that, right? So if you're just happy and think you got more than your fair share on this go round, and that nobody guarantees anybody tomorrow. And, with knowing that, you bring another reserve to the balance sheet because of who you were, what you've done, and the fun you've had. I mean, you would run out of time in a day if all you did was list all the times you laughed like crazy, had family occasions that were unbelievable, vacations. I mean, it's just tons of that stuff. And all of a sudden, a disturbance, a distraction, an inconvenience comes into your life, and all that gets shoved behind. And now it's the what happened to me, you know? And so I think that makes a difference. Beverly,
Oh, wow. You left me with so much, guys. Okay, where do we start? To take off on what you said, Dawn, um, it is all about turning your thoughts around. And that's the same with really what you said, Tara. Um, we're not stuck in that place. We have so many different thoughts and we can change them all the time. And to your point, Dawn, if I'm late, you call. If there's something that's happening in your life that's not going your way, you change it, you pivot, and you're always grateful for whatever it is because you could make it good no matter what. And this I truly believe. And what's really interesting, a while back, I don't know if they have it, not too long ago, Harvard did a study on happiness. And it was 6 months free course. Anybody could attend it. And think of it. Well, first of all, it was filled with people. And you're saying, we're talking Harvard here, right? It was Harvard Business School. These are stressed out people. They're trying to work really hard, really ace this stuff, and they're teaching happiness. What a la thing that is, right? Well, part of it was practicing gratitude and hearing these kids like every single morning saying, happiness, I have a load of work. Happiness, how many hundreds of thousands of dollars have my parents invested into me, and boy, is there pressure here. Whatever it is, right? What goes on in our minds, it is nothing to do with gratitude and happiness, but happiness is not a destination. And when you start thinking of just being happy and how grateful I am, gratitude was part of that practice for sure. And what they had to do was write 3 things every single day and bring it to class and share it. And I think one of the important things in gratitude is sharing. We have to say thank you. If not, how grateful are you? So to share it, not just think it just becomes part of who you are, what you do, and everyone in that class released stress. There are stress hormones that we have when we build up. And as soon as you're grateful, as you were saying, Tara, we get this release, we get into this happy place. And so the more we practice the good things and the less we stress out on the bad things, like a ridiculous light or someone is 5, 10, even 15 minutes late, if they're doing that intentionally, hey, maybe that shouldn't be your friend. But, there's something else going on. Find out what is it. So, to be grateful for every little thing just makes you happier in the long run. Sarah.
and I think what one should add and can add is the people I'm most grateful for are the people in my life.
Yes. Yes.
Not my stuff, not my whatever. My stuff is actually always changing anyway. So holding on to something or worrying about something, a lot of times losing something gives you a chance to get what you really needed in the time you're in. Sometimes you got to get backed off a horse to get on the horse you're supposed to be riding. And the people in my life were the people who allowed me to be grateful.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's the conversations, it's the company, it's not being alone, and it's not being lonely, especially if you're working against yourself at times because, you're angry, right? And when you're angry, you act angry, you sound angry. That's what makes anger happen. So You know, having rituals makes a difference. You know, how you start your day makes a difference. Like I
Mhm.
said, 2 miles every morning, and that's what it takes for my head to like open
Mm,
up. You
mm,
know, I eat a really good breakfast. I got a great wife, right? And every day we
Mhm.
have a ritual. And right before I'm about to do the show, she says, "Good luck, have fun," every day.
Mhm.
And I
It's
always say,
awesome.
"Thank you so much for your support," every day, right? It's the
Mhm.
same thing, but you know, why not add a little more than hey? You know, why not take the time if people mean something to give them your utmost time and respect, right? Because that carries
Exactly.
over. You know, that's like a package. Here's a delivery. When you're done with it, give it to the next person, have them enjoy it. And that's where I think the future, just like Tara's point, if everybody had a gratitude practice, the world would change. But I think the
Mhm.
way the world can change with that is peer to peer.
mhm.
Yes.
Going to get an
Yes.
institution. You're not going to get some government that's going to be there for you with everything you need, but there's people right next to you who would
Yes.
be happy to share, trade, and that's what we're doing because everybody here seems to be here almost every day. And because of that, they have a family every day that for an hour a
Mhm.
day, every day, they can reunite. And I know when people have a hard time, everybody sincerely reaches out. You know, sorry, you got a challenge or whatever. And sometimes this is your chosen family, right? And
Mhm.
everybody has to earn their spot in the family from the last thing they said or did. So it keeps everybody a little bit more uh, aware and respectful. And I think that's really what people want is respect. And that's the hardest thing to get because there's so much noise, there's so much confusion, there's so much yelling and
Ah,
bullying and you know because it's a mob and the only way people get through is by being louder, meaner, or angrier. But if you can elevate like we have and go off to an island in the sun with all of your people, you can avoid that and get the best of what you were hoping to get over there with a more time and cost efficient manner. So it sounds like a commercial. But, anyways, let me recognize
ah,
Kelly. Yes, love that and agree, Tara. I think you and Kelly have so much in common with everybody. You know, Dennis, it's just great because, like every family, there's always characters in it, right?
yeah.
There's an uncle
Ah,
who's always going to be telling jokes, and there's a nephew that's always going to be doing kind of things he does.
Oh,
Nick,
I saw that already. Somebody opened with a bacon jam joke. I saw that. I don't remember who it was, but somebody started your very first thing with a joke when you said that. Who
well,
was that
it
here?
must be Carrie if it's a joker.
oh,
Uh,
yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
she had a bacon jam joke that I was laughing at, Carrie. That was great.
yeah, he's been telling jokes forever. Natalie's here. Natalie's a wonderful
Hey,
artist.
Natalie.
I saw your post today with that beautiful painting of yours,
Beautiful.
and I would actually check out Natalie's profile and the work she does.
Mhm.
Just a wonderful lady.
Is she the
Dennis,
one up here? Is she the one who put right at the top that I
Yes.
feel that being grateful helps me handle my feelings better? It's like a daily tool. It keeps me steady. I thought that was really, really great that she's recognizing that gratitude is a
oh, I'm
tool.
missing some of these.
Yeah, I thought that was beautiful, Natalie. That it really is. It's a tool that helps us, and when we handle our feelings better, then we become less reactive, and we become more responsive, which then also gives us more power in our life. Right? When we're reactive, everybody else has the power in our life. When we're responsive, we have the power. So I loved how she used that word. It's a tool. That was
Mm.
beautiful.
Yeah, well, you know, that's the beauty of this is you never know who's going to come up with the next great quote or
Mhm.
comment, and that's why
That was
it's so
great.
valuable that it drives conversation. Elizabeth popping in to say hello, great to see you. Debbie comes back with gratitude rituals.
Yeah.
Natalie comes back with
Yeah,
no
that's a
matter
good one.
if your day is good. Okay, I feel that being grateful helps me handle. Well, sure. And you know, you should be doing everything you can to help yourself in every way you can, right? You're the first person to the accident scene sometimes. You know,
Yeah.
how do you comfort yourself? How do you put in perspective? And I always found it's never as bad as when you first hear it or see it because everything terrible shows up. And then with time and maybe someone who's been through it, you start to moderate. And, at the end of the day, I got to be honest, it is what it is. It's how long, what do you want to add to it for how long to keep changing it in other people's perspective. And not to say, again, like Tara, when something happens, it's not like you snap your fingers and now you're back to normal. You can't be.
Yeah.
You'll never be the same.
No.
Once you hit a wall, there's going to be something that remembers that wall, no matter how far you move away from it. And I think it's just doing the best you can with where you are, with what you got, and go to work one step at a time. Just breathe. I always found that to be the most important thing when you just can't deal with something. Just learn to breathe. So Beverly, we're getting
absolutely. Absolutely. And this is the thing. When we keep on going and when we're hit with the wall, so to speak, and we can't keep on going, how do you express gratitude for that, right? And that is really the thing. When we're going through some trauma, or when we're going through something that, in my case, for instance, all of a sudden I opened the door and, like I've mentioned numerous times, a subpoena was placed in my hand that had nothing to do with me. Okay. And it's like, what the heck is that? And then all of a sudden, you're involved. And what I was involved in this bankruptcy case that ended up being absolutely nothing. However, it could have destroyed my family. It could have destroyed my life, my marriage, my everything. Now, how could you be grateful for that, right? And everyone goes through this sort of stuff. But let's face it, why do I do what I do? That's really one of the reasons I do what I do. Through it all, I got my education. I became a talk show host. I'm a speaker. I have a company. All because of this ridiculous, and I say absolutely ridiculous, and I must also say horror, that I went through for a good 7 years. And so would I want anybody to be grateful for that? Absolutely not. Okay. However, when you come through with it, I wouldn't have known my own strength ever. And this is why I help other people know their strength. Because when you're hit with something, when you don't know how to go through things, gratitude is the last thing you're thinking of. And yes, you have to kind of get there. And you have to start seeing that you can build, you have the strength, and you can be grateful because it's leading you somewhere. And everything goes to somewhere. And if you weren't hit, if you didn't have that wake up call, oh my goodness, how would you know? You wouldn't know. So we all have indomitable power. We all do. And gratitude is just, like Tara said, one of the many tools to get you to be you. And that's the real person. And everybody wants to be just who they are. And yeah, we have to look at ourselves and say, be grateful for everything. Even those horrible times, there's something in there somewhere. Always be grateful.
Yeah, that's so true, Beverly, because if you look at it, life is a blend. And where you are today, if you're really happy where you are and you're really excited, then the blend got you to here. And you wouldn't be here without all of it, right? You can't just I'll take the good, let someone else have the bad. And the other element is maybe there's a reason for things you'll never know, but there's a reason. They say the definition of faith is the belief in the invisible. Right? The belief in that, hey, there's a person I've yet to meet that's going to come into, when I did business plans, I used to always figure, well, who am I going to meet this year that I don't know now, but it's going to be a factor in that plan? What am I going to learn this year that I don't? So people start with where they are, thinking they're always going to be there and add to it, except the key is redirection and optimizing and upgrading. You know, you're the factor of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Ask yourself where they're all going.
Mhm.
Is that
Mhm.
where you want to go? And if it's not, find somebody who's going where you want to go and drop a person who isn't. I mean, that's, you don't want to take people that they don't want to go, and you don't want to go places that they're going if you don't want to go. But that's where you have to draw lines. You have to understand, because if you make it about something bigger than yourself, you'll sacrifice more of yourself. When it's all about you, then it's always win, lose. How much did I get? How much did I share? And, you know, life's too short to be keeping score all the time. If you got to keep score all the time, you're with the wrong people. I was always like, hey, we'll just do stuff, and we'll figure it out. And if someone gets the raw end of the stick, we'll make it right for you. And with that said, you just focus on getting things done, but more importantly, getting things done with people you can be better for their experience of being with them.
Mhm.
You know, it's access that's important. Natalie comes back with, yes, thank you for acknowledging me, my comment, Tara, understanding my emotions and choosing higher frequency thoughts have been
Mhm.
pivotal in my life. I am so grateful for great thinkers and leaders in this field. And, you know, recognizing you could use
Mhm.
help. You actually
Yes,
need help. And someone who comes into your life with that help is a
yes,
definite reason for gratitude. How many times did
yes,
you say, if that person didn't show up, I would have been in even worse trouble? Right? Whatever it is, the plumber finally showed up, or
exactly.
whoever, you know. So Tara, what are your new thoughts? This is your first time with this audience. What do
Yeah,
you?
I love what people are saying here. I love, Debbie saying faith is an enormous foundation for my personal gratitude journey.
Mhm.
Debbie, I would totally agree with you that my faith is super important to me, and it plays a lot into that. And I love what Maria is saying. If you hang out with 5 fools, you're going to be number 6. We really, I was doing a training last night with my team on this about neuroplasticity and how you have mirror neurons. And I think this is fascinating. Our brains will actually rewire to be like the people that we're around. And it's an evolutionary trait, because if you were in a tribe and my thoughts were so completely different than the rest of my tribesmen, and I was going to go against them, I would be kicked out of the tribe. And back then, if I was kicked out of the tribe, I couldn't survive on my own. So biology, evolution made sure that my mind started to become and wire like my tribesmen so that I would be accepted and be able to stay safe in the tribe, right? And so we know this if we have kids, you're always like, who are my kids hanging out with? But to know that there's science behind it that says, no, your neurons are actually mirroring the people that you're hanging out with and rewiring. And it's why, like, even if you feel like, Don, you were talking about this before about community and people. And I read a study that women over 35 are lonelier today than they've ever been in life, which is, or in history, I shouldn't say in life, in history. And I find this fascinating because we have all this social media that connects us. And that's why, guys, even just showing up for something like this and hanging out with Don for an hour every day, you may feel like I don't have the community around me that I want, but then you can find a community. I mean, he's providing you with a community right here, right? So if you're like, I need to be around different people that are going to think differently, that my neurons are going to change, and big thinkers and positive thinkers, this is a way you can get that. You just show up every day and hang out with him and his community, and all of a sudden you're shaping the way you think without even realizing it. I think that's really incredible. And Beverly, when you were talking about having gone through trauma, and I think that is a tough challenge, a tough question. You asked a great question that I want to go back to. It's, how am I grateful for something that was so traumatic? I would never wish this on somebody else. And I think about that with my domestic violence divorce, right? How can I be grateful for that? And I don't know that I'm grateful for that experience, and I would never want anybody to go for that experience. But what Beverly did, and I hope we all saw that, is, and it's a fabulous tool, it's just a reframing tool. You take the picture. So the picture is the trauma that she was going through, this lawsuit, and there was a frame around it that said all these terrible things could happen to me. And she chose to take that frame off and put a different frame on it that said, well, this is what I learned about myself and how strong I am and how I got this. And that was very similar with what my domestic violence divorce is, that the frame was saying one thing about who I was, what my value was, my fear. Talk about fear, right? And I chose to take the frame off and put a different frame on it, of a frame that said, okay, what did I learn about myself through this process? And Don, you brought up a great point, and you don't know where it's going to lead you. And so
Yes.
I remember back in 2008, 2009, and guys, I mean, I went through a situation where I had somebody who was actively planning to kill me. Okay. So most people don't have somebody who's actively planning to kill you in your life, I hope, right? And I remember being in like real fear for a year, living with my windows closed. I had restraining orders. I had police on speed dial, all of this kind of stuff. And I remember a defining moment in my life that changed my life. I stood in my living room and I said, I'm done. This is the line in the sand. I refuse to give this person one more day of my life because my life was so filled with fear. And the reality of if somebody wants to kill me, they can kill me. People get killed in broad daylight. Like that's the reality, right? And so whether I live 2 days, 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 years, I am not giving this person another day of my life. I am taking back my power and I refuse to be in fear. Now, that didn't mean that I did stupid things. I still followed my safety plan. I still was cautious, but I refused to live in fear. And it was very difficult for the people around me to accept that, right? Because they wanted me to be safe. And I was like, I'm still going to be appropriate and safe, but I will not. And if I only live 2 more weeks, I will live 2 more weeks, but not in fear. I won't. And I will tell you that decision back in 2009, I didn't realize how that would change my life because fast forward to like, almost a decade later, and we went through the pandemic, right? And I have a child with high risk and massive medical stuff. And can you imagine the fear? I had this kid locked like Rapunzel in a tower, right? When the pandemic hit. But because I had made that decision at one point in my life that I refused to live in fear, that decision, even though I was still appropriate, I refused to let an outside force control me and live in fear. And I believe I was able to handle that season better than a lot of people that I saw because I'd already made a choice years ago. I will not live in fear. I don't care what happens. I will not live in fear. And imagine if you have that kind of power. Like, just imagine if you have the power to say, this is the line in sand that I draw. This is what I choose to do. This is what I choose not to do. This is what I choose to accept, believe, like how powerful you are. And it's not a right or a wrong or a good or a bad. It's just that you get to choose for you. And I think so many of us, we forget our power and our choice. So I wanted to go back to make sure we didn't gloss over what Beverly said about the power of reframing and the power of what Dawn said about your choices. You don't know years from now what those choices are going to mean for you and how they can impact you. I thought both of you really contributed beautiful things.
Well, that's so beautiful, and I know how genuine and authentic and heartfelt it is. And I know that allows other people to maybe reflect on what has been something they haven't been able to totally exit from. And there's nothing says you should or have to, right? It's all about degree. It's all about how relative it is. And sometimes you need to give yourself credit for going through it. It's always worse at the beginning because you're giving up everything you had and you get nothing in return the first day except everything that was and don't know what is. And I think by doing enough of those transitions, you start to appreciate that everything is not a direct line, right? Everything is pivot, secure your space, stabilize, whatever you want. But, I think if you don't take every element of baggage with you, right? If you can just say, hey, material things are not, even in my vocabulary, I could care less. And maybe even vanity things, so I'm not going to take care of them. I'm going to get lazy for a few days, or I'm not going to worry about how I look, right? I'm going to give myself some extra attention. And I think when you're your own best friend, right, versus your worst enemy, because I've had loops that I wouldn't say anything that I'm hearing by myself to anybody, even a stranger. So what are you saying that to yourself?
Great point. Great point.
And listen to yourself. It is what you're thinking. And if you want to change your thinking, don't think of something else. Do something else. Active people, especially people who volunteer, who are going somewhere where they're needed, loved, and they bring real value, now have purpose. And I think that's what happens is people lose their purpose. They lose their belonging. They lose everything. Beverly, what's your thoughts?
Once again, the two of you have been just wonderful. I love what both of you have been saying. Purpose, sense of purpose. We do lose our purpose when we're hit with anything we hit the wall. It's like, where am I? We become frustrated, we become confused. And what you said, Tara, is exactly that. When you found your power, that
Hmm.
confusion stops. And that's what happened to me as well. And this happens to everybody. When we go in that confusion, we're not thinking of gratitude, we're thinking of survival. We go right
Hmm.
down to the pits, right? And the first thing is how am I going to get out of it? With me, when lawyers are coming to attack and it's like hundreds of thousands of dollars, and I'm standing up in front of the TD Bank, Toronto Dominion Bank, these are powerful people. And and I am there and I know nothing about what they're talking about. And it's a whole team of lawyers. I mean, like I'm ready to just crawl into a rock, you know? But when you stand there and when I realized I have my power, I don't know how I got that, but I just
Mm.
said, enough is enough. And I somehow there was this switch, I guess after 7 years. They lost their account, by the way. Everything went to dust. But the bottom line is, as soon as you have your power and you realize that these are just people and I have stuff to do and they are bothering me. Within the 7 years, I built my private practice. I had other things to do. Actually, I wasn't so concerned anymore. It's like Tara said, if he's going to kill me, somehow he's going to find a way. Okay. And there's nothing I can do about it. However, you have to say, okay, what's the worst that can happen? I don't want to think that. And this is what everybody has to do, by the way. That's another tool. Think, what is the worst that can happen? It doesn't happen. Okay. Now think of what the best is that can happen. Most likely that's not going to happen either. But the middle, that usually happens. And when you're going through it, you say, I can get through this. I can make a difference. And I have the power to do it. Give yourself that. And that's why when I'm teaching women to find that tool, because everybody, if you look back in your history, every single person has had challenges, every single one of us. So whether it's taking care of our children or whether it's taking care of our partners or our businesses or whatever it is, you are stronger than you think. But during that turmoil, during that frustration, you become so weak. And when you think about it, that's the game that lawyers play. That's the game that a lot of people play. The bully plays that. The abuser plays that. They play on your fear. And when you
Hmm.
stand up, I'm not a big person. I'm not a tall person, although I think I'm 6 feet. That's a joke. However, I'm a lion. Okay. And that's what you have to believe. You are all stronger than you know. And when you
Hmm.
feel it and you connect it, that's it. Okay. You become magical. And I truly believe that. And gratitude gives you that tool. I am grateful just to be me. I can stand up. I am capable. And even if I have one leg, and thank God I don't, I at least have another one. But while you're suffering, you don't think that way. But when you push through it, and only when you push through it, that's when you can say, hey, look at what I've survived. And you can be grateful for just about anything.
So,
And
so well said.
I want to, Don, can I really
Please.
quick? I don't want this comment to get lost because I want to acknowledge the vulnerability and the transparency in this. Carrie put, I'm not grateful for my mom when she killed herself. And so, first of all, I just
no, no,
want to say I am so sad that you had to experience that. And what Carrie is able to do is exactly what we talked about, which
yes,
is the reframing of, okay, I'm not grateful for this experience, right? Who would be grateful for that? right? But I had people in my life who kept me going. I have Jesus in my life. And then this is the
Yes,
key one. I'm so much stronger since that happened 35 years ago,
that's
that we can take an experience and reframe it to say, okay, how did this grow me? How did this make me better? And
yes.
who do I need to be strong for? Like Carrie, I'd love to get to know you, but my question is like, now who is he, or is that Carrie, a he or a she? I'm not sure.
It's a guy.
Okay, influencing, and how is he now using that strength to change other people's lives?
That's right.
Like, how do you take that pain, and we talk about that pain being the purpose, right? So I thought that was really great. I wanted to make sure that quote didn't get lost, or that comment didn't get lost. And then also one other here, and Leslie, now I'm going to have to go do some research on this girl because I'm not sure. She's saying, is the mirroring the replication, or is it being rewired? So is it that your mirror neurons are growing new mirror neurons, or are they just rewiring? I know they're rewiring for sure. I have to go back and research though. Now I'm wondering if you actually are growing new ones, or if they're ones that you have are just rewiring. And I would love if somebody knows the answer to that, put that in there, because now I'm going to have to hop off today and go research that and find out. Because I do know that your neurons are very much like a wheelbarrow groove. So if you think of like, I have a thought, and every time we think that thought, we create a groove. So if you took a wheelbarrow and you did it the first time down the grass, it would kind of be difficult to have that thought, right? Because there's no groove. But if you thought that thought every single day, you would put a groove, a divot. And that's why when we say things like, what's your birthday? You don't really think, you just have that neuron goes, do, do, I know the answer, do, do, I know the answer, because the groove is so deep. And that's true on everything. If we think, oh, I'm such a loser. Oh, I'm not smart enough. Oh, I'm not capable of, I don't have the right people. If every time we think that, we make that groove deeper and deeper. But the great part is that we know, science tells us, we can actually get rid of that groove and reroute that thought. So we can go from, I think I'm such a loser, to, I think I'm learning and I'm always growing and I'm capable, right? Like we have that ability, but it's work. It's actual physical work of taking control of our thoughts and not letting our thoughts take control of us. But I do not know, Leslie, if it's that you grow new ones or not. I'm going to go find out.
No, these are really. Go ahead, Beverly.
Yeah, can I just add to that, because you did hit on a point. You absolutely did. We have a negativity bias, and that bias goes automatic into something negative, and that's why I was saying by that spiral, right? And to get to that neurology, which happens to be that groove, the automatic thinking, what we're talking about really here is you can rewire your brain without even thinking of any of the neurology. All you have to do is think positive. Think positive thoughts. And it's not la la la, it's not Mary Poppins type positive. But if you have a gratitude list, that's one way of doing it. Some people have a gratitude jar, and I love that one, where you just a little bit of paper and you put something you're grateful for every day. And so it's not the same three things, like I'm happy for my family or whatever, I'm grateful for this. By the end of the year, and they do it, usually it's done like the beginning, January 1st, you open up your jar and you take a look at all your little papers. And it sounds like kind of like such a childish thing to do, but on an adult level or a childish level, what you do is you say, wow, look at all I have. Look at the abundance I have in my life. And that gives us peace. That gives us fulfillment. And there's a reason that Harvard did that study on happiness, because when we're happy, when we're grateful, we do better. We'll be better in our exams. We'll be better when we're positive. We're better in the workplace. A happy workplace gives you more results. And when you're grateful, if you say thank you to your team, if you bring people on that are happy, they will stay. They will do more for you. They will work better. What Google put on, my goodness, you can do your laundry at Google. You can have, you can go to sleep at Google. You can, they want a happy work environment. Happy people end up being grateful people, and they do more. Not that we're doing this to manipulate people, but it's just to be able to say to yourself, I put in a good day. I'm happy with everything that has gone on in my day, and I feel good. I'm grateful.
Yeah,
And that's just a message,
I think
to
that
self.
says a lot. And one more way of working with it or dealing with it, if that's how one wants to see it, is when things happen now. I always say I've been through a lot worse than this. And then I got through it. And I've gotten through a lot of these kind of
Yes,
things. And you know,
yes.
it's slowing down when things are speeding up or people around you are speeding up. You slow down to compensate for it instead of speed up with them. Because where's the fire, right? If it's going to be a while, give it the while it's going to take, and don't be impatient. I think impatience is another element that I want it out,
Hmm.
I want it done, I want it through. Yeah, well, wanting and and getting is not always the same thing. But before we close the show, let me.
Carrie did come back with an answer, Don. He found that Scientific America states that the adult brain does grow new neurons. That's
Well,
what the study shows.
see
Thank
how
you for
fast
finding that.
knowledge can be shared in this day and age with Google.
Yes.
Here we go
Doesn't
with
take much.
Carrie says, sorry for your loss as well, Natalie. I can be glad to share my story. Uh, Natalie says, I'm sorry to hear about your mom, Carrie. My father took his life 38 years ago this November. I'm glad that the framing concept will serve you as it will serve me as well. Thank you for sharing.
Mhm.
And thank you for sharing, Natalie, because one thing it says, we're not alone. What you think has happened to you or is happening to you, and you think you're the only one, it's only because more people aren't sharing their stories. And when you hear other people share it, it gives you a community, right, of relationship, of people who are even more intimately aware of what it is and what you're doing. And you can use this show to reach out to those people and get to
Mhm.
know them better. That this is the beginning. Shows like this, it's meant to ripple. Great to know we can all become groovy with positive thoughts. Dennis is always bringing a little bit of levity. Debbie says,
I love
the
this one.
sooner, quicker, faster we reach gratitude in the midst of the horror, the more
Yep.
expedient our journey into our power. And you know, people here, the people who are open to new ideas, new way of thinking, and new ways of sharing what they're thinking. So if 40
Mhm.
people every day share 40 thoughts or questions or quotes with 40 other people, and then everybody here is an influencer of some sort, and then it amplifies the reach. How many messages can the world hear, especially if they're evergreen? What we're talking about, you could talk about it 100 years from now, and it's still going to be relevant, you know? So we've got Maria says, my motto, don't come for me unless I send for you.
She's from New York. All right. Yeah.
And,
I'm about 40 minminutes outside of New
and
York.
Leslie says, the opposite frame is the law of polarity and action. So true.
I love that.
Dennis
Great.
says is usually the middle of his great guests, like today, and the mirroring is the replication, perhaps rather than being rewired. We kind of covered that. So, final thoughts, Tara, on the show, the word, and the experience.
Oh, well, I've just loved getting to talk to you and to see all these great comments. And I appreciate how vulnerable and transparent people are willing to be. One of the things that Don, you just said is that when we don't talk about things, we think we're the only ones who are going through it. And I think this is worse because of social media, because I don't know about you, but if I go onto my social media, all of my friends have a promotion, a gorgeous house, they're on vacation, and their child just won an award. That's all my friends. That's not me, but that's all my friends. And so I can go on there and all of a sudden start to feel terrible, right? And it's one of the reasons I very openly, I talk a lot about my domestic violence, because 1 in 4 women is affected by domestic violence and we don't talk about it. And so I've had women come up to me and tell me about their stories and say, I've never told anyone. And I think by not talking about it, we're protecting the perpetrators. And so I think it's important that when you go through stuff that we are willing to be, and I appreciate that this is a community where people feel that they can be supported and non-judged and appreciated. And I really believe if you are in a place where you feel like I'm stuck, I'm not experiencing joy on a regular basis. You talk about this happiness, but I don't have that. I would just truly challenge you. It's the middle of October. One, and I would challenge you, and you can come back and message me and let me know, like if I'm wrong, okay? If I'm wrong, I'll buy you a coffee. How's that? I would challenge you that if from now until the end of this year, you made a decision that every night you're just going to sit down, like Beverly said, with a journal. You have to write it down with a journal, and you listed 5 to 10 things that you are grateful for. And you cannot choose the things that were yesterday. That's cheating. You have to choose new things for today. You can have to choose 5 things every day. And you did that from now until December, that you would be different. Like you would feel different. You would feel happier, more purposeful, more at peace. You'd have more joy. And if I'm wrong, if you do it and I'm wrong, you come back and message me. I'll buy you coffee. How's that?
Well,
Because I know it will change
a
you.
winning challenge for everybody involved. And thank you so much for your ability,
And thank you for
Sarah,
having
to
me
take
on,
a
Doug.
word like gratitude and work for the first time with a new audience and new co-host and really exemplify, you know, what you do and who you are so well. So appreciate that gratitude there. And with that, Beverly.
Well, not to be a Debbie Downer, but this October is Domestic Violence Month, and everybody does have power, each and every woman, although we feel that we do not. And we do not have to stand alone at all. When we are alone, that's when we feel we do not have power. So, yes, just as Tara said, speak up. And another thing also, gratitude for everything. So, what doesn't kill you is really the truth. It does make you stronger, and be grateful for that. And there's always communities, and there's always people, and there's everyone is there for you. Surprise, surprise, because the more you reach out, the more you will find that people understand. We all live our lives, as Tara was saying, on social media, and everybody is living the most fantastic life ever. But don't take a look at that. It's so not true. And this is what I say to my clients when everybody says, you know, I say, how are you? And you say, fine. I said, okay, you're talking to me now. And then we talk to the real deal. Okay. So don't think everybody lives this perfect life. Okay.
Yeah.
No, nobody does, because we're human. So to have that human connection, that's where gratitude comes in. Be grateful. Be grateful for who you are, and that you do have strength, and you're stronger than you know, and you can stand up for who you are and what you believe. And gratitude, as that saying goes, I don't know, I think it's anonymous, gratitude turns what you have into enough. And I love that saying. You know, it is enough. Give me peace. And that's what gratitude does. And I want to thank you, Dawn, and thank you, Tara, and thank each and every one of you that have come on, because it's part of your day and you've taken time off. And just plain thank you.
Well, I could say more, and I usually do, but we're top of the hour. And I just want to show my gratitude to everybody. And, you know, to Bev's last point, sometimes enjoy the imperfections and not always focus on the perfect and the perfection. Sometimes, you know, the little things that you're into, like, you know, I usually make eggs in the morning, but I always decide, are these eggs better than yesterday's eggs? And what makes for good eggs? And is this toast just right? I mean, why not measure the things you know you're going to win at, the things that you were involved in, you know? Why not take a moment when I do my walk to look at the birds or the water or the fountain or whatever is around me and say, wow, you know, everybody's looking for those wow moments. And if you can fill yourself up with wow moments that were created outside of yourself, with nature, with animals, with art, whatever you want, it's there it's like a supermarket sweep. Gather all you want because it's free. It's always there. How many people walk and never see the sky or never see a tree? They're so focused on where they're going, they forget where they're at, where they can really get the most benefit. So be grateful. Like I say, no one promises anybody tomorrow. You know, there's one last saying I'll leave you with. They say, live every day like it's your last, because one day it will be, right? And I think if you understand that, you wouldn't worry about things that are either far out or far past, you know, and now is where you're at. So thank everybody. Come back in 23 hours. Tomorrow we're going to have Kelly and Leslie Flowers with us, and that should make an interesting combo. It's been a while since we've blended that, so it's going to be really good. And everybody's getting so much better by the day. It makes the whole group elevate to a higher level. And so thank you for everybody's participation. Very grateful. Go out and do a grateful journal tonight. Take care.